Ashtavakra Gita, Muktabhimani Mukto hi Baddho Baddhamanyapi Kivadanti iva Satyayam Yamati Sagatir Bhavet. If one thinks he is liberated, he is liberated. If one thinks he is bound, he is bound. This adage is true, that as is your thinking, so is your fate. This is what Ashtavakra told King Janaka. Some people in the world believe that they are free, and by virtue of that belief they are free. Some people in the world think they are bound, and by virtue of thinking that way they are all Baddhajivis, they call it. On one side there are Baddhajivis, bound by an iron chain or a copper chain or a gold chain, as the case may be. They are all Baddhajivis. On the other side of the spectrum, Muktabhimani Muktohi, they think they are free, they are liberated, and therefore they are liberated. They are the Buddhajivis. One side it is Baddha, other side is Buddha. And what is that which makes you either Baddha or Buddha is your Buddhi. If Buddhi turns towards the world, it becomes Baddha. If the same Buddhi turns towards the spiritual knowledge, it becomes Buddha. So your Buddhi is the reason for why you are Baddha or Buddha. So much of what you want to be or what you can become, it lies in your hands. I keep on repeating this any number of times, that it is in your hands. Buddha was very pampered and protected child, because his father had some kind of a astrological prediction that this boy who came after him, after they had almost given up hope for a child, a boy child, will either become a great Chakravarti, that is, he will rule the whole world, become very famous, or else he'll become a sannyasi. Nevertheless, he ruled the world, either the outer world or the inner world, as the case. He was anyway Chakravarti. The father became so cautious. What will happen to my son if he sees the sorrows of the samsara or anything that can evoke such feelings of dispassion and detachment, and he may become a sannyasi, then I don't have a heir for the kingdom. So he protected him from all exposures and only showed him what is good, what is sweet, what is nice to the senses, and never showed him anything which was disturbing. But it so happened that for a long time he lived inside the palace. 29 years he lived inside the palace. Imagine 29 years you've never gone out of your palace. At best you have gone to your gardens and the nearby fruit gardens, forests, whatever nearby, which is completely protected. He never saw death till 29 years. Not even disease, not even old age, not even sickness. He was never exposed to any of these things by his father's efforts. At the end, in fact, they say that even as the animals around or the servants were getting older, they were continuously replaced by the younger looking ones, so that he never gets the idea that old age is also there. That kind of comfort his father Shuddhodana was giving him, only with one intention, that he should never develop dispassion or any kind of detachment, become a sannyasi. He must rule the kingdom, fight battles, expand the kingdoms, and then should become Chakravarti. And what he has done as a king, his son should do 100 times more. That was his ambition, like most of the parents' ambitions. But as it was written, as the fate was, he one day escaped from the palace with a very trusted charioteer, the man who was there, who had raised him since a boy. And as he went, he saw there was a man who was very weak and very frail, and he did not know what it is, because he never saw an old man in his life. So he asked this charioteer, who is this person? What is wrong with him? He said, he is nothing wrong, he is just an old man. He said, what is this old thing? What is this old? He said, everybody will become old one day. Everybody will become old. Your body will become weak, your eyes will become weak, your strength will leave you. And that is how you will live. He said, will I also become such? He said, of course you will become old one day. Is it so? He was shocked. Then he went ahead and saw somebody who was sick. Nobody was touching him. He was going through some kind of a sickness. And he asked, what is this now? He doesn't look old. Then why is he lying like that? He said, because he is sick. He is gripped by some kind of a disease, and that's why he is unwell. And so nobody wants to go near because they are afraid that they will also catch the disease. Coronavirus. So Buddha said, what is this new thing? Is there something called sickness? He said, yes, there is a sickness which also destroys the body. It gives you a lot of trouble and pain. That was the second shock for Buddha. Third, as he was going, it seems somebody's corpse, they were taking for final rites, cremation. And he asked, what is this? Why this man is going, sleeping on their shoulders? He said, he's not sleeping, he's dead. What is death? He said, one day you have to leave this body is temporary. Will I also die? Yes, of course, you will also die. That was the third shock for him. And after these three shocks, he was totally disturbed because 29 years has not seen old age, sickness, or any death. He thought life is one big party, it will go on and on forever like this only. His father's idea it was. But the moment he saw, something shook him from within. So you mean to say all these pleasures, all the health, all the vitality that I am enjoying is not going to last forever? And he confessed, of course, it won't last forever. One day it will be taken away. Harate nimishat. Kalat sarvam ma kuru dhana jana yavana garvam. Everything will go one day. And so Buddha kept on thinking to himself. Atma vichara started. If this is the end of everything, then why should I live a life which is finally going to end in such misery as disease, decay or death? I should not lead a life like this. And therefore, as he was proceeding, he saw a saint, a sage, who was sitting by himself, extremely peaceful. His face was radiant with self-knowledge, and he was extremely happy. And he asked, I have never seen somebody like this. Who is this? He said, he is a saint. He is a sannyasi. Oh, why does he look so happy? Because he has understood the truth of life, that all this is temporary, and the permanent is only within. Without is all temporary, and therefore this is all. How can I know that? That was the question came to him. Now, how many of us have seen sick people, old people, dead people? How many of us got this question? Buddha got this question. How many of us got this question? Even when we saw so many people dying, falling sick, or having diseases and suffering in this samsara, we also saw great people who have redeemed themselves, who have freed themselves from the clutches of samsara and become happy. But how many of us thought like Buddha? To how many of us it occurred that why should I go and lead this life which is anyway going to take us to a miserable end? Why I should not find a way to be liberated and be happy like the other man? How many of us get that thought? For centuries, apples have been falling from the tree. But the thought came to Newton alone. Why this apple is falling down? Why it is not going up? For centuries, since man came into existence, everything has been only falling onto the ground. But one Newton sat and questioned, why? This is falling this below. Why it is not going above on the side? So Newton discovered the law of gravity. Likewise, Buddha asked this question, why? Why? Why this? Why should people suffer? Why should the life should be full of so much of misery? How can I escape this misery? He asked the question and therefore he became Buddha. Most of the people are Buddhus. It doesn't even occur to them that there is a question behind all these scenes that are changing every day. They don't even think, will I also meet the same fate? Am I also going to die one day? Am I also going to be sick and old one day? Is this all youth and vitality not going to last forever? All these pleasures that I'm enjoying, are they not going to be permanent? Then what is the way that I can get permanent happiness? What is the way I can live permanently, peacefully? Why we don't get that question? Why Buddha got it? That is the secret of self-realization. The one who gets this question will realize self. All the others who seeing pashyanapi na pashyati muda, they say. They see but they don't see. We see people dying but we don't care. When death comes, we'll see. We see people sick, we don't care. That is for them. I am young and strong. We see people having diseases and suffering, we don't care. We say that is for them. Till it comes and knocks on our door, we don't care. Because we don't care, that attitude does not allow us to liberate ourselves. When we start caring for all the things in life and start questioning them, that is the beginning of Buddha's walk, Buddha's path, who starts asking questions. That attitude is what Shankaracharya, that attitude is what we called it Viveka Vichara, Anatma, Atma Viveka. Or yesterday I was telling about Drishyadrik Viveka. Or our Ramana Maharshi said, who am I? Koham Vichara. Somebody said, Swamiji, Ramana Maharshi, went to Ramana Maharshi and said, you are great being. You did question, who am I? Who am I? Generally we are busy questioning, who are you? Why are you here? But we don't question, who am I? Why am I here? That doesn't occur to us. But it occurred to Ramana Maharshi. When as a boy of 14, when he underwent some kind of a transformative experience in his home, where he left his body and his body went up. And he saw himself lying below and he saw himself lying above. And he asked the question, what is this going on? And he felt a sense of tremendous peace, which he never experienced while he was in the body. And so when he was pulled back into the body and he came awake, this question gripped his mind. What was that and what is this? If I am this, then who was that? If I am that, then who is this? Am I both or am I none? Four are there, four questions. It is, and it is not. That's the first question. Is it there? Is it not there? This is there and that is also there. Is it? This is not there, that is there. And finally, this is not there, that is also not there. None of these questions occur to us. Is this real? Is that real? Is this real, that unreal? Are both unreal? None of these questions occur to us. But they occur to Ramana Maharshi. So he became liberated. He took that question as his pursuit of life. And he came all the way walking to Arunachala. They sang Arunachala Shiva. I was remembering Arunachala and Sri Ramana. And as a boy, he went into the mandir, somewhere found a corner, quiet corner, because wherever he was sitting, people were coming and children were teasing him. So he went and hid himself in some small, in the basement somewhere, withdrew from everything, and God knows how many days he sat like that, trying to find out who am I. Same as Buddha did. He sat under a tree, Ramana sat under a temple, and asked the same question. What is the purpose of all this? Who am I? What is the reason I am here? Why am I here? They didn't ask, who are you? Why you are here? They first asked, who am I? That question liberated them. So one devotee went and told Ramana Maharshi, Swamiji, am I eligible to inquire like you? It never occurred to me to ask myself, who am I? Is it possible for me also to be a part of this inquiry? Who am I? This Ramana Maharshi, see, he is very clever-witted. Ramana Maharshi will speak little, but whenever he speaks to the point. What did you say just now? He said, who am I? You said I. He said, yes, of course, I said I. If you said I, then you have a right to inquire, who am I? He said, you said just now, am I eligible to find out? He said, you said just now, I means you have an I. Now inquire what is that I. And begin now. Not tomorrow, not day after. When it rains, I'll repair it during summer. When it's summer, anyway it's not raining. Why should I repair the roof? Postponement, chadalasam, this is the most dangerous habit of a spiritual seeker. Postponement. Kal karenge. Today it's got too busy, tomorrow we'll start. Tomorrow comes day after. Day after comes another day, and before that, you are only not there to do anything. Harata nimisha. So that kind of a passion, that kind of a inquiry, strong inquiry, who am I, came to Buddha. And what did he do? The same night he came home, his wife, child were there. But he felt some kind of a question that I need to know where is the end to this misery. How do I find out? I cannot find out in this palace because my father would not allow me. So let me go out. And silently left that night on his horse. Sent the horse back, but he continued to go and sat under a tree for many, many days. They say sat for 49 days. There are different people thinking different ways. He became just a skeleton because he had not eaten, he had not drank, because nothing was coming to him. See, when you are not at peace, do you enjoy food? Even if your mother makes the most favorite dish of yours, you cannot eat, you cannot enjoy. Why? Because your mind is not at peace. Like that, he wouldn't feel like eating, he wouldn't feel like drinking, he would not feel like sleeping. Because that enquiry was driving him so immensely. Why I need to suffer? How do I escape this suffering? Who am I? What is the purpose on this earth? And he kept on doing this enquiry, self-enquiry. That was his path, Jnana Marga. He didn't have a Bhakti Marga. He did not go by Bhakti Marga. He didn't believe there is one God or one particular God whom you have to worship. But he asked this question, who am I? Much before Sri Ramana asked. And so what happened? From Baddha, he became Buddha. And he came to the conclusion that the end of all the misery is when you give up all the desires. Only the one who is desireless, nirmama, nirahankara, that person alone will be sukhi bhavet. He alone will be happy. All others cannot be happy. They may be temporarily happy when they gain something, and the next moment when they lose something, they will again be unhappy. The permanent tesham sukham shashvatam. Only to them this permanent happiness is given. Who knows vijanatam, who know the truth of life. What is the truth of life? That it's all sorrow, it's all misery, and the reason for this misery is desires, and the one who conquers these desires conquers all sorrows, and ultimately realizes his own or her own self. So now we have been doing some self-enquiry, at least some kind of mind enquiry we have been doing last 1 week. What is this my mind? What is the nature of that mind? What is the kind of mind that I have? What are the thoughts that my mind is always thinking? What are the desires that I have developed, tamasic, rajasic or sattvic? We have done some bit of homework. To their degree of their work, effort, you will receive the results. If you were really sincere and done very sincere effort to find out, clean up yourself, you washed your clothes really thoroughly, it will be neater than others. But if you really put some sincere effort in the last 1 week to identify where you are, what is your mind thinking, why it thinks like this, what is the root cause of that thinking. If you go on asking yourself question, as I said, the mind will get revealed to you. You will come to know what kind of person you are. You are not one but three, I keep on telling that. The body that you think you are, the mind that others think you are, the Atman that you really are. So at least one step you have gone closer. From just thinking this body is I am, to now understanding that no, I have a mind behind this body. Rupam drishyam, lochanam druk. All that I see is the drishya, seen. Eyes are the seers. Then what happens? Tadrishya, when eyes become the object to be seen, drik manasam, mind becomes the seer, they say. So your mind has become the seer in the last 1 week, and you are observing. But your mind is also not the seer. What has happened to you? Something else has been seeing the mind. Isn't it? Drishya drivrittasya. The mind's vagaries become the object to be seen. And who is the seer? Sakshi. Drikmeva. The Sakshi, the witness inside, has watched your mind. So now you know that there is something inside you which can watch the mind and can watch the body. But this is neither the mind nor the body. How can the eye be the same as the pillar? Because eye is seeing the pillar. Likewise, how can the mind be the eye? Or how can the consciousness be mind which is watching this? So what is this consciousness? In another term in our scriptures, what is that which is watching the mind, they ask? It is a higher mind to begin with. Let us not jump to the Atman. That is still an illusion because we have not experienced it, right? So we will believe there is a higher thing that is watching this mind. This higher mind is buddhi. This buddhi is watching the mind. And what is buddhi? Not ordinary intellect. Not the normal intellect which decides things on a normal way. This is a higher intellect which can discriminate anitya and anitya. It is not that buddhi which discriminates this is wood and this is metal. It is not that kind of a lower buddhi. It is a higher buddhi which can discriminate between the real and unreal. Atma, Anatma, Viveka, they call it. So this is a Viveka Shakti I'm talking about. So there is a Buddhi behind your mind, Viveka Shakti, which has watched 1 week your own mind, as the mind kept on watching the world around you. So you are 2 steps inside now. You were already at the body level first. You thought all this is you. But then you went 1 step behind and said, no, there is a mind which is enjoying this body, through this body. That is me. And then you went 1 more level behind that there is something, I have a capacity to watch over this mind also, see how it's behaving. What does it think? What thoughts it brings and what thoughts it takes away. So you understood that you are 1 level behind. That is why Bhagavad Gita said, you see, Indriyani paranyahu, indriyabhya param manaha, manasastu para buddhi. We are only at this level. 2nd week, we will be at the level of buddhi. Yo buddhe parastastu saha. There is 1 more, but that level nobody can explain. That you have to experience. So what I can explain to you, till buddhi level. So I will explain to you what is the nature of this buddhi now. Dhi, buddhi, buddha or baddha. The difference between the 2 is buddhi. So today you are trying to move from baddha to buddha. So that is why morning somebody asked, what is the message? Buddha Purnima. I said, walk the path of Buddha, become Buddha. That is what I said. Don't put a photo and worship Buddha. I didn't say that. Don't have a discussion and study circle on Buddha's teaching. I didn't say that. I didn't even say that you just sing special bhajans and do some charity in the name of Buddha. None of this was his asking. His asking was, you also become a Buddha. His name is not Buddha. Buddha is an adorative noun given to him, that you see, you are Buddha, you are aware. You are not Buddha anymore. So Buddha said the same thing, give up your desires. Now let us think, in your mind you have categorized, you have got 3 bins now. One is a tamasic bin, instinctive desires, impulsive desires. You have no control over it. When it takes over you, you just follow it blindly. Strong instincts are there, of all the senses. He told the deer story, so I remembered. Again, Viveka Chudamani says, the one animal has only 1 sense. Man has all the 5 senses. How? Patanga, Brunga. Patanga means this moth. Nowadays, lot of moths are coming. What is its attraction? Light. It sees the light. So its eyes make it go and die. It sees the light, it cannot resist the light, knowing very well. Look at this point, you have to note. It is so attracted by the light, knowing very well that if it goes into the light, it will die. Yet it goes and dies. Baddha Jivi. It knows it is going to get burnt into ashes. Yet it goes. Look at the helplessness of this mind of that insect. Look at the lack of discrimination of that insect. Next moment will be dead, it knows, but yet it cannot resist. Janami dharmam. Unfortunately for the animal, no, he doesn't even know, it's instinct. The dharma doesn't exist. I'll come to that topic little later. So it goes and dies itself, kills itself in the fire, knowingly, unknowingly, ignorantly, Buddha, Buddhi, Buddha, whatever it is. Ultimately it dies, that's the end result. Meena, tongue, taste. How do you catch fish? You put a small bait, small insect, or another small fish you put onto the hook, fish hook, and put that line inside the water. What does this fish do? It knows behind this little insect which is so tasty, there is a deadly hook. There is a deadly hook. Many of the fish in the pond have all died because of this earlier. But it is not Newton, it doesn't get the question. It is not Buddha, it doesn't get the question, why should I go and die? Many fish have died. My grandfather died, my grandmother died like this only one day. But it doesn't get this question. See what kind of Baddha it is. Driven by the instinct, chapalyata, goes and puts the mouth into the hook. Next moment, even before it can taste that bait, it's eaten up by the fisherman. Just by one tongue it suffers. Look, the mruga, it listens. Sound is its attraction. So how do people catch deer in the forest? they make some sound with leaves, the rustling of the leaves. The deer may or may not know it is because of the hunter. Yet it is so driven by that sound, influenced, that instinctively it goes towards the sound and gets caught in the net, gets killed. But just by one sense of hearing. Elephants, you know how they catch elephants? Matanga. They send a female elephant into the forest. And what does this female elephant do? It goes and rubs against the male elephants. And those male elephants go mad by the touch of this female. They can't think anymore. They just lose all sense of discrimination thinking. And this one female elephant comes back with 10 male elephants. Whomever she touches, that elephant goes mad. Cannot think anymore. Touch. For one sense of elephant kills the elephant. Isn't it? What else is left? Smell. Who smells? Bees, brunga. What does it do? It goes to a big flower, and the honey, the smell of the nectar in the flower is so strong. It can't resist. It knows if it goes there, it may fall into the flower, into the sticky honey, and never come out. Many times you'll see, if you go and observe, children should do this because nature is the best teacher, I always say. Go and look into flowers. Sometimes you'll find small insects dead inside the flower itself. How did that happen? Because driven by the scent of the flower, they go, thinking that they will enjoy the honey. But what happens? They die and they become the food of the flower. And there are carnivorous also. Some biology students would know. Trap they call, Venus trap. Venus fly trap. It catches the fly and closes itself. But still the flies go. The fly knows. My great-grandfather also was caught like this only and died. We had a funeral later. Ayyo. Then my grandfather nevertheless again went and fell in the trap. We had another funeral later. My father also died the same way. Yet it will go and fall into that for that little honey. Yet that question does not come to these animals. Why should I repeat this? Why should I do this when I know this is the straight door to death? Why should I repeat this? Why should not I avoid this? None of the animals get that thought. So if humans also don't get thought, what should I call those humans? Worse than animals. Because animals did not get this buddhi. They live by their instincts. They have lower intelligence, how to do some simple lower things, animal things. They don't have higher discriminating intelligence which can discriminate instincts as dangerous and give them up. That is not given to them. So it is given to human. But what kind of human? If you are a Duryodhana, and Krishna told, what is this? Why you are getting into this? He said very clearly, Janami dharmam nachame pravritti. I know what is right, but I cannot follow right. Janami adharmam, I know what is wrong, nachame nivrutti. I cannot get rid of wrong. I am like that only, I am driven by that. So first level, are you an animal? You have to ask yourself that you don't even think. You have made that mistake 100 times and felt sorrowful, troubled yourself, yet you go and make the same mistake again. Are you in the animal category? You ask yourself. And unfortunate thing is, animal had only one sense. We have 5 senses to deal with. That's what Shankaracharya laments. What is the fate of a man? He has 5 senses to deal with and save himself from the danger of 5 senses. So that is the second thing. Are you a Duryodhana? Is the question you have to ask yourself. I know, now that I have done all this segregation, I know, but these are something which I just can't get rid of. So Viveka I got. Most of you would have got Viveka. But do I have the willpower, that Vairagya, to actually follow up on this Viveka? It means once a person went to a peace protest. The people were protesting peacefully. And he said the first thing that struck me is that how angry were the peace protesters. They're talking about peace protest, but the anger inside them is so much against whatever they were protesting. So he told the first thing that struck me was how angry were these peace protesters. So talking about these things is not going to help us. talking, bahuna shrutena, not going to help you, not going to help me, not going to help the world. Buddha did not do talking. Ramana Maharshi did not do talking. He got up, next morning left, came straight to Arunachala without informing anybody. Buddha did not even wait for the next morning. That night only he left. He said, it has to be done now and here. I cannot wait another day to start this process. It has to be done immediately. Shubhasya Sigram. Immediately I must do. So Buddha took to his feet, walked out of the palace that same night. Though he had a wife and a son and a beautiful kingdom to rule and a lot of wealth and pleasures, Sri Ramana was relatively poorer, was still a boy. And these distractions were not there for him. So why I am talking both the stories? Because Buddha will represent the Gruhasthas who are here. And Ramana will represent the Brahmacharis who are here. Both of them have to apply this now. It didn't matter whether you were a Grihastha or a Brahmachari. They just walked out. I'm not saying you walk out of the ashram and go off wherever you want. Not that. I walk out of this habit, the dead habit, this force of habit, which makes us do the same thing again and again without our own control and knowledge. We are not Buddha, we are Baddha. We are as if slave to this mind and senses and our instincts and lower intelligence. And we keep repeating the same thing again. We get angry, we get angry again. We develop a desire, we develop the same desire again. We tell a lie, we tell lies again. How are we going to get out of this? Are we going to be that elephant and that Bringa and Meena and Patanga and all those and meet our end, miserable end? Or should we rise above and ask ourselves this question, whether I can get out of this and do something about it? So this week is about getting out of it. This week is about Viveka combined with Vairagya. This week is about not just thinking about doing it, but actually doing it. So will we be able to get rid of all these vasanas, instincts, desires on the next morning? May not, maybe, I don't know. Your Purva Janma Prarabdha, your Purva Janma Sukrutas, I don't know how they are. But it's possible if you continuously work on it. I was giving the example yesterday, if you have our mothers are there, they'll understand. Sometimes they forget the milk is boiling and vessel gets burnt. Isn't it? Then how much time does it take to clean that vessel which has got burnt? For a week that stain will be there. You keep scrubbing and scrubbing, soaking and scrubbing and soaking and scrubbing. The vessel is literally useless for the next 1 week. Till you get rid of because it's little dirt, you put milk in it, milk will get spoiled. So that till the last bit of that burnt, sticky dirt is there in the vessel, you cannot boil the milk again. Likewise, some vasanas might have been there from many, many births. And to getting rid of them will take longer time. Some might be little burnt. The moment it started burning, you went and switched off the stove or whatever and saved the vessel from getting burnt. So that is also there. So there will be easier to clean up. Some might not have been burnt, it's just a little sticky butter here and there. And that can go away very quickly. So you have desires will be of all kinds. And don't think only tamasic vasanas are the toughest. Sometimes sattvic vasanas might be more tough than tamasic vasanas. The burnt thing is maybe the sattvic vasanas. I'm doing good. Nobody appreciates me. Nobody knows me. I am a good person. Nobody acknowledges it. That could be so strong. Or a rajasic vasana. I am rich or I am wealthy, I am beautiful, I am handsome, I am intelligent. But what's the use? In this ashram, nobody cares for it. How beautiful I look, how handsome I am, how rich I am, how intelligent I am. Nobody even pays attention to it. A lady was there. She sold her land, small piece of land, and bought gold bangles. And she wanted to see to that everybody knows that she has bought the bangles. And she's going, everybody, so namaskara, how are you? Are you fine? But still people were not noticing her fate. So what did she do? One day she got so frustrated with herself, she put fire to her own hut. She burnt her own hut, and the fire, when hut burned, whole village came running. Hey, whose hut is burning? And what she is doing, she is dangling her hand in front of the fire so that people will notice that she has got bangles. Look at her desire for recognition and acknowledgement. Look at that. She can burn her own house to see to that everybody comes and acknowledges she has got gold bangles now, which in a village is very rare to have, because she sold a piece of land. That level of self-destruction we can go to if our desires bind us. All these animals were destroying themselves because of their desires. Same thing applies to man also. His desires can destroy him or her, or whichever case, boy or girl, whoever, doesn't matter. And that is the time when we have to become Buddha and discriminate, use our buddhi. That what I am going to do, is it in line with the ultimate goal of my life? Or is it something that I don't care about? I have no goal. I'm not saying if you have a goal, you will not make a mistake. But Swami Vivekananda said, if you have an ideal, you may make 1,000 mistakes. But if you don't have an ideal, you will make 50,000 mistakes. So I'm not saying tomorrow you will be all Brahmagyanis and Buddhas here. This 1 week of effort is also maybe not be enough. It's a regular, continuous, ongoing process. When Buddha himself sat for 49 days, without food, water, and any company or anybody around, under a tree, and then he had this realization. And he got tempted many times in between because of hunger, because of this, but he never got up. He said, no, till I get that, what is the use of this life? And he sat. I'm not saying you have to go through this kind of ordeal or this kind of tremendous austerity. But all I'm saying is that you must pay serious attention to the effort that you must make to get rid of those attachments that you have developed. It could be anything. It could be related to all the 5 senses. It could be related to your mind, the rajasic ones. Just acknowledgement also for your good work. Any negativity towards any person, the hatred that you are carrying for a long time, or attachments that you are carrying for a long time, secret attachments, or any kind of fear that you are having in your hearts of the future, of a person around, of the boss, of the wife, whoever it is. Ask yourselves, if you have worked on all this, the first bin that things have to be thrown out of, get rid of, is instinctive ones, because we are not animals. Our senses cannot drive us. We are not slaves to them. Our mind cannot dictate. We must do. There's some people kleptomaniacs, they steal things. They see anything good, put it in their pocket it off. Anything. They steal from hotels, they steal from people's homes. Kleptomaniac. There's a story, one Rishi, a saint, was called to a home for lunch. And he had his food, and he was served in silver plate and silver bowls as the tradition was. At the end of this thing, he happily, silently put one a cup or a spoon or a tumbler, silver tumbler, in his bag and escaped. After going a little distance, he said, what did I do? Why did I steal this silver? I am not attached to it. I am supposed to be sannyasi. I never had desire for it. How did I end up? He asked. That eureka, that moment came to him. Arey, what did I do? Why did I take this? And he went back straight to the same house and confessed, I took this, I am returning this, I am very sorry. They are shocked. We thought he's a great jnani, how come he stole a silver tumbler from our house? He said, see, I also am surprised. So then they investigated. Then this Rishi asked, who cooked the food? The house said, sorry. He called his wife and asked, did you cook the food? Wife said, sorry, I'm going through my monthly issues. I couldn't cook the food today. I asked a neighbor's servant to come and cook food. And this neighbor's servant had the habit of stealing things from houses. And because she cooked with such impure thoughts, and in her mind all the time she was watching those silverware and thinking, which one should I steal? And so she cooked the food with that thinking, and that's why that food, jaisa anna vaisa man. This man ate, and that mind also got influenced, and he also stole. See, that is the mind. How quickly it gets influenced. If you just leave it for a minute without paying attention to it, When you see, Srinivas says always, our Sri Srinivas, when you stand there and pay attention to all the construction, nothing moves. One day you don't pay attention to the construction, all the wrong that can be done will be done on that day. You are watching your child 23 hours, 59 minutes, nothing goes wrong. 1 minute you turn your head this way and he's destroyed something. That is the nature of mind. 1 minute you don't pay attention to what it is doing, it does the damage. So that kind of alertness, that is the Uttishta, Jagrata, Prapya Varan Nibodhata. This is Kathopanishad. Yama tells Nachiketa how a man should attain self-realization. Uttishta means you will be up and eager, ready. Ready, steady, go, as we say. Uttishta, Jagrata, be alert, be awake of your ways of the mind. It will now start dissuading you. No, this one is not to be discarded. It may be useful, who knows, it may just come to some use tomorrow. As I said, if you tell a woman to clear his cupboard full of saris, or even boys to remove some of their play articles or things, they'll find some excuse of the other why this might just come to our need sometime. Like that, the mind will now start playing tricks. It will try to convince you why this is nothing wrong with what you are doing. Why there is nothing wrong in hating that person because he deserves to be hated. Why there is nothing wrong in thinking ill of that person because he cheated you, he deceived you. Why there is nothing wrong in storing a little bit for yourself because you're supposed to be responsible for yourself. Why there is nothing wrong in seeking acknowledgement for the good work. After all, for bad work everybody talks about. Why should they not talk about good work? Your mind will come with new tricks and tell you why you shouldn't get rid of those desires and thoughts. It will come and tell you 100 very, very sweet, convincing answers, and many times you'll almost get convinced also. What it's saying is right. That clever is the mind. So now you will see the next phase of its chanchalatvam. And also, not just chanchala, not just it's shaky, but also how clever it is, because it has got the lower intelligence with it. But how do you cut iron? You cut iron with iron. How do you remove a thorn? You remove a thorn with another thorn. So that is why I told you have to use this Mahabuddhi, the higher intelligence, to beat the mind that is lower intelligent tricks. Jnana Khangena. With the knife of jnana alone you can cut this thing out, because mind also has some lower intelligence with it. See, intelligence is a very in the middle thing, you know. It has some part of it overlaps with the mind, some part of it overlaps with the consciousness you call it. It is to both. Because ultimately to know the consciousness also you need the buddhi. Shurasya dhira is a sharp intelligent, like the edge of the knife. That is, Kathopanishad continues to say, how difficult is this part? Shurasya dhara. Duratyaya. Very difficult. As difficult as this edge of a razor. It's as difficult. Who said this? Not me, not you. The great people who have walked this path have told this. Kavayo they call it, means the knowledgeable ones. They said this, that this walking on this path, Uttishta Jagrata, is all fine. Ready, steady, go is fine. The moment you start going, you'll know you're walking on a razor's edge. It's as careful, because little this way, that way you'll get cut. So mind, now you see how it will use the lower intelligence to convince you that you should not have to stop this. You should not have to give up this. You need not change your ways, because A, B, C, D, it will go on. It will convince you. That time you have to take refuge in your higher intelligence and tell the higher intelligence, be a good friend to my Viveka, you are a good friend to me, I know you. Vairagya, you are another good friend, I know you. On my right is Viveka, on my left is Vairagya, two of my best friends. Please be with me, I am going to deal with this mind today. No, be on my right and left. Bali, you know Bali, how he was. And Vali will come in front of anybody, what will he do? He will take away half of their power. Vali. That's why Rama had to hide from somewhere and kill Vali. But then Vali also did some wrong things and he got punished. As you do so shall you reap. So Rama justified that punishment, even though war tactics don't permit it, dharma of yuddha don't permit it, but then it is right to hit somebody from the behind because he did something wrong. So he doesn't have authority to speak about dharma. So this mind is, you think of it as like a Vali. So the moment it comes in front of you, half of your discrimination, intelligence, half of your understanding, knowledge, it will take it. Then what it will do? It will give you all kinds of logics. Kutarka. It is summer. What's the use of repairing now? Correct. Logic. That money can be used for something more useful. If rainy season comes, it's already raining. Now how can I repair? It will give all this kutarka that time. This mind will start these tricks. And how it will do? It will use your own intelligence. Look at the joke of this mind. It uses your own intelligence, a piece of it, a part of it, and plays against you like the Vali, like the Vali king. Takes your own strength and fights against you. Makes you weak. That is the way you will experience the next phase of discrimination and detachment. Viveka and Vairagya. Viveka is the sharpening of the knife. Vairagya is the act of chopping. Both you have to keep doing simultaneously. If you don't do this, what will happen? All this will become one intellectual exercise, that's all. At the end of it, you will be very entertained. Somebody wrote to me, Swami, it's so nice to hear, so difficult to follow. I told, Yamati Sagati. If you think it is difficult, it is difficult. Henry Ford, the car manufacturing, first car manufacturer, US. He said, somebody said, sorry, I can't. He said, yes, you can't. He said, now I understand I can. Yes, you can, he said. If you think you can't, you are right, you can't. If you think you can, you are right, you can. Dhrida Nishchayaha. Go with that determination, I can. Swami Vivekananda would say, never say I can't. Never say I can't. But what is not possible for you? You are divine himself. How something cannot be possible for you? So say I can, I can. Always say I can. So when mind comes and does these kind of dramas and plays tricks, don't run here and there to find entertainment. Rather sit down with Viveka and Vairagya on your side. Viveka will tell you this is to be gotten rid of. Immediately tell Vairagya, go ahead and execute. Don't wait a moment, because the longer you wait, the mind will keep sucking my own energy. We were in Sri Lanka, these leeches were there in tea estates. You walk, this leech will, without your knowledge, it will get into your socks. Even if you're wearing shoes, it's your socks. You don't even realize. And you keep sitting, after an hour you start feeling drowsy and sick. And then you think something is wrong with me, I don't know what. And then you realize there's a leech which was sitting there for 1 hour, it's been sucking your blood, it becomes this fat. It is this small. I was so surprised because I always saw leeches in pictures. And I saw them as big creatures like this, you see. When I went to Sri Lanka, in the farm, the leeches were only this small, 1.5 inches or 2 inches, thin, like 1/3 of an earthworm. I was so shocked. I said, how can leeches be this small? They said, no, this is deceptive. When they don't drink, they have not had their food or blood, they look this small. Allow them to have their blood, they'll grow this big. Half a foot, they'll grow. That I remembered. This is how mind is. The moment you allow it to take over, it will suck your own energy, become stronger and stronger. And then do what? It will kill you only, it will harm you only. Because after 2 hours, it seems people get, all the blood is drained out, and then they get some brain stroke and things like that, and they die. Even with a leech, they can die. So what do? The moment you find out the leech is there, what should you do? Should make immediate effort to get it. But how do you get it? If you pull like this, its jaw is like this. It's not teeth like us. It has got a 360-degree circular jaw. So that its grip is strong. Like that mind is, its grip is strong. It will catch hold of your mind. Mind will catch hold of you with your desires as its teeth. And dig deep into your buddhi. And not allow your buddhi to act. and take all the intelligence of that buddhi and use it for its kutarkas. So how do we remove? They immediately rub salt, because leech cannot bear salt. So you apply salt, then the leech will on its own leave the grip and run. You will think, I am very strong. What is there? I'll put the hand and pull the leech out. You will hurt more. You'll hurt yourself more. So there is a trick to get rid of that leech. Likewise, don't think you're stronger than the mind. Don't go and stand in front of the mind. Come on, let us fight like Vali, Sugriva. You are foolish. There is a trick. Send Vairagya to deal with the mind. Like a king sends his Senapati to fight the war. He stays in the palace. You stay in the palace of your Antahkarana as the owner, as the king of the palace. And you have two ministers, Viveka and Vairagya. Viveka is your prime minister. He tells you what to do. And Vairagya is your commander-in-chief. So Viveka tells you, these are all wrong habits, these are wrong thoughts, these are not necessary, these are unwanted, this is not divine. It will tell you. The moment it says that, tell Vairagya, commander-in-chief, go attack. I am not coming. Because if I go, you'll take my energy. I'll be behind you. I will still be a karta. I will still not be the doer. I still have things or people who can do things for me inside me. Because I don't want you to get into kartritva bhava with this. I conquered my mind, Swami. I know who has conquered whom. Avijñātam vijanatam, vijñātam avijanatam. You think you know, you don't know. And you realize that you don't know, that is when you know. If you come back saying that I faced my mind, I did this exercise, I have gotten rid of all my desires, after gotten rid of all the things, I can only laugh. Because you have got into a bigger trap. You come out of a smaller trap and you got into a bigger trap of kartritva bhava. And this kartritva bhava will bring back everything again. Everything will come back once more in a bigger, more intense way. So what you should do? You should stay. I am the consciousness. I am the higher buddhi. I will watch. I will make the strategy, but I will not fight the war. I'll sit here in my palace on my chair and I will tell Viveka, go and see what's wrong with these desires, which Viveka has already done. This enemy is like this enemy is that strong, that many enemy has these powers. It has identified all your enemies, Arishat Vargas. Now the time for Vairagya to go out to fight the war. You sit as the not doer in all the doing. You sit. You sit and you watch this fight happen between Vairagya and your Manas. You watch. You still be a Drishta only, not Karta. But you have a faculty called Vairagya, willpower to detach yourself. That you put against your desires. And still you watch. I have still not told you that you should act. I have only told you to watch your mind. Now you watch your Vairagya, the higher buddhi. They are the two children of higher buddhi, Viveka and Vairagya. The lower buddhi's children are mind and all the senses, Jnana Indriyas. So the higher buddhi, the children are Viveka and Vairagya. Now you allow them to take their course of things, and you still be the king and watch. You think, I am going to do this, and you feel exhilarated after having said so. Take it for granted. It is only hiding in a corner. It has not been killed. It will come back. This time it will come back with bigger vengeance. Because kartritva bhava is the worst of all the ajnanas that one can have is, I am the doer. That will bind you further. So do you sit? You understand the exercise? You understand what I am trying to say? Last time you observed the mind for 1 week. This time again you will observe the mind with Vairagya. The detachment should deal with the mind. And you are still the observer. You are not the participant in this whole thing. So now you tell your higher buddhi, Buddhi, I need your help to deal with this mind. And here onwards our effort would be that you send this Viveka Vairagya. Viveka has done his work so far. Vairagya should go now and start getting rid of things. And tell yourself, None of this is me. They should not be here. They are not my relatives. They are not my friends. Why should they live in my house? They don't have a place here. So get rid of them. So this thinking you develop. 1 or 2 days you practice, and all that I'm saying you'll understand it better practically, how the mind plays tricks, how it acts as if it is being your friend. It will pitch your own self against you. Almost start to appear as if it is your friend, that this vairagya is causing trouble to you. It is asking you to get rid of all the nice things that you always enjoy. It will make you feel terrible about your own vairagya. But you should not listen to it. Your higher buddhi should help you say, no, these fears are unnecessary. These desires are unnecessary. This anger or whatever the negative feelings I have, unnecessary. All these are not necessary. Mind will keep on telling you, there's nothing wrong. Whole world does this. Even rishis, they also enjoyed all these things. They enjoyed after they realized. You're not realized, you will get into trouble. So you tell yourself, no. Whatever argument the mind puts up, say no. Because mind will never want to die. Never wants to die. You think, just an example, when you have a deep sleep, where is your mind? It is not manifested. The moment you're in dream state, it is half manifested, they say. Half manifested, not fully. And when you are in awakened state, that not awakened, the awake Jagrata Avastha, it is fully manifested. It means, in the deep sleep, if somehow you believe that I have conquered the mind, or in dream state, if you somehow believe that I have half conquered the mind, are you right in thinking like that? No, because the moment you come to the Jagrata Avastha, the mind is all there. Likewise, this mind is so tricky. So you have to be very careful in dealing with this mind with very sharp intelligence, intellect, and of course all the time prayers. Rama only helped kill Vali at the end. All the time prayers. That God, I am embarked on this path of Buddha. I know it is the razor's edge that I am trying to walk. I know this is not something that I have done before. And this is going to be difficult for me. I know I will fall many a times on this path. And I will be tempted and I will be distracted. But may your grace prevail. May your strength strengthen me. May this desire to be you, to become Buddha, remove all this baddha for me. Pray like that. Then Guru will take pity, God will take pity. Ayyo, he's struggling, she's struggling, at least she's putting effort. He will make it easier for you. So while you like a Sugriva will be fighting the battle, Rama from behind will shoot an arrow and Vali is done. Because you made good friendships. But if Sugriva said, no, I will not go in front of Vali at all, I don't trust Rama. Actually, he didn't trust. He said, if you can cut all these trees with one arrow, then I will believe. And Rama had to prove himself. He chopped all the trees with one ekabana. And that is how he believed and went for the war. So the question is, if you put a little effort like Sugriva, Rama is right behind. And he will take care of that Vali. But if you get afraid and you get distracted and you get dissuaded and you come back, there is no way you can do that. So please remember, God's grace is most important. That comes after self-effort only. Without self-effort, God's grace won't happen. If Sugriva decided, I don't want to go for the fight, what can Rama do? So please remember this, and this week is going to be more uncomfortable than the previous week. Because so far the mind was tricked by us saying that we are not doing anything to you, we are just segregating and sorting you out, that's all. We are not throwing anything of you. Keep everything as you want. So mind said, all right, this much of work is okay, I will permit. This time what you are saying, mind, actually we are going to chop you into pieces, and all that which is not good in you, I am going to throw you out. And now mind will say, no, that is not agreeable to me. But what is mind do? It will not come and directly attack you. indirectly it will attack you. It will work on your psychology. It will convince you, it will trick you, it will fool you, persuade you. And sometimes it will almost win the argument also. Then you come back to yourself and think, did I do the right thing? And this exercise should go on every day. But if last time you were spending, let's say 15 minutes to 20 minutes in the whole of the day, double the time now. It means if you have done 10 minutes of watching the mind, naturally watching is less work than working, isn't it? Working will obviously require more effort and time, it's logical. So now you are going to work. Identifying what has to be thrown is less effort. Picking it up and throwing it out is more effort. That effort is obviously take more time and perseverance. So already be mentally prepared that you double the time of whatever you have done to clean your mind, double the time it will take. That is a simple formula. So use that for this week and continue work and throw everything. As I said, at the end of it, you should not be left with anything actually, ideally. But it may not happen in the beginning. Some things will be left. Now, one thing for younger boys and girls I want to tell. Some of the desires of the senses will definitely be the most difficult to get rid of. Even if you tell, I don't want it, it is there. Like in deep sleep, it is sleeping, but it will come awake anytime. The child is sleeping, house is peaceful. Child comes awake, it will be mess again. So tell yourself, there is a dharma to everything. With dharma if you go, no problem. Without dharma if you go, all problems are there. So there is a dharma to speech, there is a mano dharma, there is a deha dharma is also there. All these dharmas if you follow, then there is no problem. But if you break that dharma, everything will turn against you. So contemplate on this thought. No, there is a dharma for a brahmachari, there is a dharma for a gruhastha, there is dharma for vanaprasthi, and there is dharma for sannyasa. Once a man and a wife decided to leave and go to forest, vanaprastha. As they were going, husband was walking ahead and wife was walking behind. And there was a diamond in the dust. And as husband was walking ahead, he thought, oh, my wife might see this diamond and get distracted. So with his foot, he kicked some dust onto the diamond to hide it. And wife watched what he did. And she told the husband, you still have a difference between diamond and dust? You still feel the difference between diamond and dust? Have you not left all that behind when we left the home to Vanaprasthi? You are trying to hide the diamond because you notice it's a diamond. I don't even care whether it's a diamond or dust. That clarity, that is dharma of Vanaprasthi. Same husband would have bought diamond necklace for the wife during Grihasthashra dharma and she would have worn with great joy. But same people, when they left the house to this service to the forest, then they should not differentiate between dust and diamond. And same people, when they reach sannyasa ashrama, they shouldn't even differentiate between man and a woman. Everybody is jivatma. His own wife is a jivatma. He cannot have. So what if he had lived with her? So what she bore children and took care of him. At sannyasa ashrama, you are just another jivatma. I am another jivatma. We were not together in this. We are on our own journey. Till Vanaprastha, we are together. So there is a dharma. But brahmacharya, wife can be there by your side? No. Grihastha? Yes. Vanaprastha? Yes. Sannyasa? No. This is dharma, is all I am saying. This is all is dharma. So make sure that your dharma is being followed at whatever level. So if mind says, no, it is natural, it is right, it is quite obvious, it is correct, it will say. You say, yes, it is correct. Within the limits of dharma, it is correct. I am a brahmachari, my brahmacharya dharma only allows so much and not beyond. Now I am a grihastha. As grihasthi, I have a dharma, I have a one wife, eka patni, Rama's ideals are there. So you say, I have one wife and I have one family, that's it. So follow that dharma. Then you come to Vanaprastha ashrama. Then you have to accordingly follow Vanaprastha's dharma. Then you both have to help each other grow towards God now. And disentangle yourself from your children, family, wealth, all kinds of things. And then you finally come to the sannyasa dharma, where your wife also is not your wife anymore. She's another seeker. And there is no difference between she's a woman or a man. I'm a husband or she's a wife. Doesn't matter because you both are same in the eyes of God, in your eyes too. That kind of samadrishti you develop at the end of sannyasa. So, dharma wise, you follow everything. Without dharma, if you do, everything will go wrong. With dharma, everything is right. So, that also you keep in mind. And I know you will get more questions now. First week, some people got some questions, but I think more or less you would have got the answers within yourself. But now you'll get more questions. Swami, I have this issue, I have this problem, I just cannot get rid of it. Is it right? Is it wrong? Should I not? These questions will now start haunting you. You have played video games, and all of you must have played a game, normal game also. First level is quite easy. Second level, tougher. But that's when you get more points. That's why you get closer to the goal. Third level will be even tougher, even more complications will come. When I will tell you, you have to believe you are not the doer. You have to still sit steady in the center. That will be even tougher level. Till now you are observing whom? All things outside you. Now you have to observe yourself, the consciousness. That will be even tougher. Then will be final level where you think you become that. At least some moments you should experience that you are one with that. If not a continuous, that's Avikalpa Samadhi they call it. I'm not saying Nirvikalpa where you are a continuous, naturally you slip into that. No. With effort, you can attain that. So that effort will come in the 4th week. And that is even tougher. So make sure that you are mentally prepared as well. But at the end of it, there is only joy. And that Brahmanandam for which Buddha struggled and Sri Ramana struggled and everybody worked, that can be yours too. And that is actually yours. And I want it to be yours. Why should you roam around like a beggar, having born to a king? Why should you roam around like a beggar? That is all I'm trying to say. So you have to pay attention and put effort. Buddha Purnima is a nice occasion to tell yourself and remind that I shall no more be a Baddha Jivi. I shall be a Buddha Jivi. I shall never use my buddhi for the lower things and become Baddha. I will use my buddhi for the higher things and become Buddha. And after all this that you become, what will change? Nothing will change. Your attitude alone will change. You'll continue to go to your offices, you'll continue to come for bhajans, you'll continue to go and play sports and do everything, but with a new, refreshing, liberating attitude. Not binding attitude. That's all the difference would be. Nothing else will grow around you or above you or below you. Nothing will change. Inside only change will happen. So that is very important if you want to lead the rest of your life in peace, harmony, in bliss. Then you have to do this now. Otherwise, do it now and enjoy the whole of your life, or do it later. At the end, don't achieve it, then find another womb. So do it now with this pain, and this is investment in your own life. If you do it now, you'll reap the benefits all through your life and lives to come. But if you don't do the investment now, all life and lives to come, you will still be a beggar, despite being owner of such a wealth. That's all is the difference between Buddha and Buddhi.
प्रेमामृत बरसाओ बाबा प्रेमामृत बरसाओ बाबा प्रेमामृत बरसाओ बाबा प्रेमामृत बरसाओ बाबा दया करो भगवान दया जनन मरण से पार उतारो, 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 दया करो भगवान, कृपा करो भगवान, कृपा करो, दया करो भगवान, दया करो भगवान, कृपा करो भगवान, कृपा करो, प्रेमामृत बरसाओ बाबा, प्रेमामृत बरसाओ बाबा, दया करो भगवान, दया करो भगवान, कृपा करो भगवान, कृपा करो, तुम्हारी दया बिन कैसा जीवन, तुम्हारी दया बिन कैसा जीवन, रोम रोम में बसने वाले राम, रोम में बसने वाले राम, रोम रोम में बसने वाले राम, रोम रोम में बसने वाले राम, जनन मरण से पार उतारो, जनन मरण से पार उतारो, दया करो भगवान, दया करो भगवान, कृपा करो भगवान, कृपा करो भगवान, दया करो भगवान, दया करो भगवान, कृपा करो भगवान, कृपा करो, प्रेमामृत बरसाओ बाबा,